guys, how's it going? It's Al. Kickoff is just a couple of days away, and we're going to take questions from my Twitch subscribers, my Twitch viewers every single week to try and figure out the best routes to go in cash games, in tournaments, and everything else that you need to know for the NFL DFS slate in week 7. They're going to have questions for the next 45 minutes to 60 minutes. I'm going to do my best to try and answer them in long form. That's what I love about this video. It's not like 240 characters on Twitter or give me a yes or no answer. We can really dig into the minutia and get very granular about why we're making certain decisions. We're going to talk about cash games and the core there. We'll talk about tournament decisions that we're going to make, as well as everything else, game theory, game selection, whatever they need to know. So let's go.
He's a legend.
The Smiz Gang Listener League is posted for week 7. There are 5,000 seats available. It's a $10 tournament with 3 max, but it's the best tournament that exists on DraftKings because it is absolutely rake free. You are not going to find the Listener League in the lobby. So if you go through the DraftKings lobby and you scroll all over the place, you will not find it. The only way to get there is through my link. So go to smizzle.tv/links and you will find the link to the Listener League as well as everything else that I do. Make sure that you get in there. This is going to fill kind of midway through the day on Saturday. We're recording. It is 9:45 in the morning on the West Coast, the best coast. And this should fill sometime in the next 16, 17 hours. So make sure that you reserve a seat now. If you wanted to, go over to the rewards, click your missions. If you're a smaller dollar player and you have a mission that is $10 or lower, you can get some bonus crowns for entering into the Smiz Gang Listener League. But make sure you get in there today because it will not be there on Sunday morning if that's when you're looking. Let's bring in the chat, get to some of the questions that they might have for this slate. I saw somebody ask, well, there, Crew Hound says, please reenact your facial expressions to the CMC trade last night. It was kind of De Niro. It was like that. It was like, all right, like that. It was more along those lines. It wasn't like shock. I kind of figured he was going somewhere. I don't think that, how can I put this? I think CMC has a greater chance to score touchdowns in San Francisco versus in Carolina. However, I don't think he's going to see 25 to 30 touches a game. I do think that he's going to see 20 plus, which is good enough. We've also seen running backs in that system, in Shanahan's system, catch a whole lot of balls. We saw Carlos Hyde do it. We saw Devonta Freeman and Tevin Coleman do it. We've seen guys catch balls like they haven't in the last couple of years because they don't have great pass catching backs. Eli Mitchell, not a great pass catcher. Mostert, not a high volume pass catching guy. And like, sadly, he's gonna have better quarterback play. Like Jimmy G is like an average like he's maybe the 15th to 20th best quarterback in the league. That's not shade on Jimmy G. That's just kind of where he is. If you ranked quarterbacks by actual skill, that's where he'd end up, like at best. So the problem is he's got a lot of competition and for targets, and they're going to go everywhere else. He's not going to get 24% of the market share in San Francisco, but so like the floor dips, but the ceiling rises because multiple touchdown days are certainly in play in that offense. That's just the way it goes. He's got to compete with Debo. He's got to compete with Ayuk. He's got to compete with Kittle. And when it comes to Carolina, he had to compete with maybe DJ Moore, and that's it. There's nobody else that he's competing for target market share with. So I like the situation. I think it's kind of a lateral move fantasy-wise, to be very honest with you. He has a lower floor now, but a higher ceiling. I also don't know if he's viable this week. If he plays at all, it might be not a snap count, but like they're not going to run him out there for 80% of snaps the first week. I could be wrong about that. If you feel that they are and they do, then you're on the right side and nobody's going to play Christian McCaffrey this week. So like if he is at all active, because he's flying out there today, then he's got to learn the playbook for 2 weeks. Luckily, he plays running back and it's not really the most difficult position to pick up, but he's not going to have all the verbiage after a day and a half. You know, he's not going to know all the checkdowns. He's not going to know all the audibles. He's not going to know the language that they use for their audibles. He's coming from a completely different system. There's a lot to pick up and a lot to learn. Luckily, he plays a position where it translates the fastest. He also has pass physical. I don't think that that's going to be a problem. It's also not like Christian McCaffrey wasn't doing extremely well, right? Let's not pretend. Also, if he's listed on Carolina, he may not score points on DraftKings this week. Let's not pretend like he's not averaging 20.7 DraftKings points on the season, and that's with the last 3 games being 22.8 and above. How many points do you think he's going to average? Like, Cup is averaging like 30. There's not that much room for him to go up. Like, I think there's going to be some games he scores like 28, and some games he's going to be down here around 16 because the volume's not going to be, you know, he's not going to get these 10 targets a game. every single game. And that's where CMC's value resides. But enough about CMC. Like, I don't even think he's going to be in play this week because of the trade. We'll find out if DraftKings can make that work if he plays. CeeDee Lamb too risky for cash this week. Why is he risky? I think he's like probably a core cash game play. What am I missing? I have to be missing something for that to be a question, right? So CMC out. Yes, finally, you guys are right. CMC is out. That question has confused me. Because like, I kind of feel like he's a very core play. Like he's somebody you're playing in cash, like basically all the time. Yeah, that's my take. That's why I was very confused by that. You could see why I'm so confused. Like here's who I think are the cash game plays. We do this every week. So like here's kind of the core plays. We're gonna have to dig into something else, right? So like at running back, it's right here. It's 6,500 for Josh Jacobs. Everybody's gonna be playing Josh Jacobs against Houston, coming off of 3 weeks where he's seen 5 or more targets. They are at home. They are favored. The second running back is up for grabs. It could be one of 5 guys, and none of them are wrong. So this is why cash game is not as straightforward as it was in previous weeks. I think there's going to be less overlap. I think that there's 3 or 4 plays that are going to be really core-ish plays based on being that much better than everybody else in terms of like points per dollar. The next guy is CeeDee Lamb. So like he's in there, right? Way too much volume, step up in offense, step up in pace. And as we said yesterday, an extremely friendly defense that they're playing against. 6,800, not nearly enough. And then at tight end, it's value week. Welcome to it. So Cade Otton, in the game that Cameron Brate missed, and Cameron Brate with a sprained neck, I was going to be shocked if he came back from a sprained neck, where he was carted off the field and strapped to a board, and they had to use a Stanley drill to take the face mask off. Like, oh yeah, I'm fine now. No, do you realize, have you ever sprained or strained anything? Like, it hurts. A sprained neck? Nah. No, there's no way he was playing. So Cade Otton at 2,700. This is what he did the last time he played. He's 2,700. He's got 10.3 points. No touchdowns. Doesn't even need one. Just needs like 5-6 targets. If he catches like 4 balls for 40 yards, that's 8.3 points at 2.7. And in cash games, that's enough. You know who else is there at 2,500? The dulcet tones of Greg Dulcich. Fantastic mustache. 2,500. I think he's going to be the most popular play, probably coming off of this game where he scored a touchdown. But him and Otton, to me, are basically exactly the same. I don't think that you can differentiate between those two guys. I think they're the same. I think that people are going to try to pretend like they're not the same, but they're basically the same. And then Chad is like going crazy over another one. Like Darren Waller, sidelined at practice, back-to-back missing practices. We're going to have to wait for the Friday practice report. But if he's out, you got 2 nicknames here. You can go with Foster's is Australian for tight end, or the Island of Foster Moreau. Your choice. Either one. I'm fine with either one of the jokes. Same sort of situation. Remember what we said? 3-4 catches, 44 yards. That's enough in cash. They're all the same. If any one of those 3 tight ends wanders into the end zone, then yeah, the law firm of Dulcich, Moreau, and Dulcich, Moreau, and Otton. Yeah, so any one of the law firm of tight ends, and then these 2 guys is kind of the cash core. I think, based on what I see on all the projections, and because he is 200 and 300 cheaper than the other 2, I think Dulcich is going to be the highest played one, but I don't think the other 2 are wrong. Okay, so if you're like, well, I don't like Dulcich, and I don't want to have 2 Raiders with Josh Jacobs and stuff, so like, then fine, play Otton. You're like, whatever, you're fine. But those are the 3 guys. Okay, those are kind of the 3 guys, and then it just depends on where you want to pay for quarterback. Second, like I said, I don't care. Like, I'm agnostic about the 3. They're all fine. Renfro hurt too. Hollins is the play. Well, maybe he runs a lot of routes. Mac Hollins is out there a lot. Like, he is on the field a ton, which is why we played him so much that 1 week that he was out there. So like, he's playing like 85% of the snaps. You know. Said he was a limited participant in practice on Wednesday due to a heel injury, but like, still, as long as he's on the field, he's going to be running routes, and you're going to have Adams on one side, you're going to have Hollins on the other side, which is where he always resides, but you're going to lose that target market share with the other 2 dudes in the middle. Like, we can take a look at the Raiders on NFL Savant, right? Let's go over here. Let's click on Raiders. and I'll bring you guys into that screen. Look at their targets. Waller's missed games. Renfro's missed games, but like Mac Hollins second on the team. Like if you're going to tell me he's going to get 20% of the target market share, that ain't bad. You know, if he gets 20% of the target market share, you're looking at something like this. He's 4,600. There's not many wide receivers right now. There just aren't. All the value is at tight end. 100% of the value. There's too many of them. There's almost too many valued tight ends. And that's what's muddying things up. You know, that's what's muddying things up. Pierce and Dobbs. Green Bay has many wide receivers. Yes. So if you didn't watch the cage match video, I picked Dobbs. Rich picked Pierce. That like 5K and down. There's no sub 3K or sorry, sub 4K wide receivers right now that are opening up massive value wide receiver. They're all between like 4,500 and 5,000. And there's extreme value, 3 of which we already talked about. And then Andrews was dinged up, but he practiced today. So I'm expecting Andrews to play like in full. I'm also expecting Bateman to play unless something changes, which, you know, if he's out, likely now adds to that cornucopia of tight end value. Dobbins not practicing today. Yeah, if he's out, Drake and Gus Bus will split the carries. You'd rather not pay for Lamar's scary floor lately. I think Lamar has a better floor in days where Bateman is on the field. He doesn't have any wide receivers to throw the ball to, and they are a passing team. And every time I say that, the hair on the back of people's necks stands up. They're not a passing team. They're a running team. No, they actually throw the ball way more in neutral situations than the league average. They're a passing team. Desean Jackson is fine. Just the threat if he's on the field. The threat of Desean Jackson is palpable. Zen Care Bear, thank you for the 27 months. Desean Jackson has improved the metrics, let's say, of every quarterback that he played with in his career. Now, granted, he's 76 years old now, and it's a different story. Daniel Jones and Cash, I don't think that's at all necessary. You need efficiency out of quarterbacks. You need them to create touchdowns. And like Daniel Jones doesn't really project to be a multiple touchdown guy. There's very little ceiling there. You get a good enough floor, but like cash games, you're probably going with one of the elite quarterbacks, whether it's, you know, if you're paying up for Herbert or Mahomes or, you know, like, cause you can get there this week. You're paying up for Herbert or Mahomes or Lamar, or you're going down to like, I don't know, Burrow or Geno or Tom Brady. Those are the guys. But because it's not such a condensed list anymore, or at least not this week, right? It's not a condensed list this week like it has been in the past. Cash games are way more exciting this week. Because you guys that have watched the recap video on the Fantasy Football channel, free plug for me, I guess, right? So like every single Monday on the Fantasy Football channel, go to smizzle.tv/FF. I come out with a recap video where we talk about everything that happened the previous week. All the players that were in my Best Buys article, which is up on ESPN right now. Smizzle.tv/Best Buys will take you right there if you're an ESPN Plus member, as well as 4 other videos throughout the week. I'm thinking of adding a 5th one, but like, I don't know, or a 6th one on Saturday, but I don't know. We'll figure it out. Anyway, it's not that difficult to get over there, and you can find out the recap video and everything else. So go to smizzle.tv/FF if you wanted to check out that. So if you watch that video, you see the $500 and $1,000 50-50s, and like the last few weeks, there's players that are 90% played in those tournaments or in those single entry large field 50-50 games. Like Ramondre Stevenson was like 95%, Lockett was like 95%, Godwin was like, they're just, the right plays get played. Is Tom Brady in play this week? Nah, wife's a witch. Is Marquise Godwin in play at all for Seattle? If it was showdown, yeah. Unless there's some news that I missed. Like, did I miss some news? Is Lockett not practicing today and is he out or something? Because if both Lockett and Metcalf are there, he's nothing more than an absolute dart throw where you're preying on a 2-3 touch guy, target guy. So with Eli Moore out, can we play a jet wide receiver? They're just not throwing the ball. I mean, all offseason, I was saying that that's an arrow up offense, right? I was buying into the Jets as a team with everything that they put into play. And they've done very well, right? They have played very, very well. They're winning games, no matter who's at quarterback. But like, aside from week 4, where Zach Wilson threw the ball 36 times, the last 2 weeks, they've had an Arthur Smithian 19 attempts per game. And granted, those were games that they won 27-10 and 40-17. But like, that seems to be where they want to exist. They have 2 very good running backs. They have an offensive line that is capable of bullying people in the run game. Now, they have a tougher test running the football this week against Denver in Denver than they had against Miami and against Green Bay. Green Bay is an extremely friendly defense to opposing running backs. They have the reputation of being a very tough defense, but for fantasy purposes, they've gotten gashed on the ground. Like, we should be playing running backs against Green Bay, like literally all the time, but they're just not throwing the ball. 18 attempts, 21 attempts. That's Mariota-esque. That's why the reason why Drake London is not at all in play and Kyle Pitts continues to disappoint is because they're throwing it 14, 25, 19, 20 times. There's not enough meat on the bone for any of the pass catchers to do anything. So when we come over to New York, and by the way, I did want to say something that was not fantasy football oriented. We'll get to that in just a minute. Elijah Moore wants to be more involved. 4 targets, no targets. Like, just not even a part of the game plan the last 3 weeks. However, they've won the last 3 games. These 2 games, it was a blowout. There were no targets. So, like, Elijah Moore comes off looking like a spoiled baby for complaining in games where they're winning and not waiting for games that they're playing from behind, like they were against Cincinnati when he saw 9 targets, or against Cleveland and Pittsburgh where he was at least involved in the game, right? Where they were closer, where they had more neutral game script situations as opposed to up 10, when clearly you're going to run the ball in the second half if your identity is a defense and running the football team. So they've put baby in a corner, and they've allowed Denzel Mims to play. Like, he's going to be active this week. Don't think he's going to be a factor. So now you're dealing with Corey Davis, who's playing a lot of snaps, and as we've mentioned all summer, is a professional wide receiver. He's just going to get out there, he's going to do his job, he's going to block when they run. Braxton Berrios, same sort of thing. No targets, but might get more now that Moore is out. And then maybe they'll start playing Garrett Wilson more. Like, he's not doing anything. But he's not doing anything because there's no volume in the passing game. So when there's no volume in the passing game, why are we playing the passing game? Now, in this game, let's take a look at Vegas, if I can find Vegas. All right, let's go take a look over here. Fantasy Labs has this free page. If you guys wanted to check it out, you go to NFL, go to fantasylabs.com, which you can't see because it's behind the thing there. And then right here at the top, which you can't see because it's behind the blocker, there's an NFL drop down. Hover over that and then hover down here to Vegas, and you click Vegas and it will take you to this page. You can see line movement, you can see since open, you can see by time where all the implied team totals are. This is the easiest place to find all of this information. So we can sort by these two. I personally like to sort by implied live. Are we not allowed to sort by that? Okay, there. Good. Thank you. Sort by implied live. Cowboys, 27.5 expected points. Chargers, 27.5. Bengals, 26. Raiders, 26. Miami, not on the slate, but on Sunday night. Ravens, 26. 26. The magic number for fantasy goodness historically is 24. Teams that, players that play on teams that have implied team totals 24.5 and up, so greater than 24, tend to score more than their projected fantasy points more often than teams that come from games where the totals are below 24. So focus your core here. Utilize the players they're playing against with this. SF not going up with CMC. I hate to say this to everybody, but like, running backs don't matter. When it comes to Vegas lines, when it comes to like having CMC in or out, never changed an implied team total for Carolina. Games where CMC was out or in, like in the middle of the week, it's like CMC, we expect him to be in, and then all of a sudden he was out. Their team total did not change. So that's a non-factor. A running back does not change that. Jonathan Taylor was the consensus #1 overall fantasy pick this summer. He was one of the fantasy MVPs in 2021. He missed a game this week, and Dion lit up the scoreboard. Running back is a replaceable position and does not affect a team's expectation of scoring points. So it does not move the line at all, Vegasly. It just doesn't. And I hate saying running back doesn't matter because like it's taken as like an insult to running backs. I respect the hell out of running backs. They have the hardest job. Every single carry that they take, they get hit an average of 3 times. wide receivers change lines? They most certainly do. So do quarterbacks, the most. If the Raiders lost, or if the Raiders were going to be without Josh Jacobs this week, nothing would change. If the Raiders were going to be without Devontae Adams, the line would move. If the Raiders were going to be without Derek Carr, the line would move. Running backs don't change the lines. Elite wide receivers change lines because it goes back to our normal draft strategy, like NFL IRL draft strategy of either draft the quarterback, right? Or draft players that are going to help the quarterback that you have, make his job easier, offensive line, wide receivers, or if you're not going to do either of those things by drafting a quarterback or drafting the things that help your quarterback, draft the things that will make the opposing team's quarterback, his job, much harder. Make the other quarterback's life hell. Draft an edge, draft a cornerback, the guys that directly help or hurt the other quarterback. That's how you should draft. And that's why running backs don't matter, because the running back does not help the quarterback. Like, some running backs help quarterbacks more. Pass catching running backs do help a quarterback. When did running backs stop moving lines? It's as long as I've been making content. I started making content in 2012 was when I really started focusing on lines and movement and everything else. I cannot speak to whether or not they moved lines before that because I was not paying very close attention to those things before that. But I can guarantee you that since 2012, this is my 11th NFL season doing content, running backs don't change a damn thing. Huckleberry, thank you for the 31 months. CD Harrington, thank you for the 6 months. Crossfire, thank you for the tier 1 sub. Welcome to the VIP. Make sure that you jump in the Discord. Smizzle.tv/Discord if you're watching on Twitch, !Discord in the chat will take you to our partner Discord community approaching 7,000 members. If you are a subscriber on Twitch or if you're a channel member on YouTube, and if you're on an iPhone and you can't find the join button, which should be right next to the subscribe button on YouTube, go to smizzle.tv/join. Go to the instructions folder in the Discord once you get there. And if you are subscribed or a channel member, if you're subscribed on Twitch, which is the $5 a month, or the channel member on YouTube, which is the $5 a month, and you go to the instructions folder, you can link your Discord to either one of those sites. Your name will change from white to blue or red, depending on where you are a paying member of the community, and you will find access to all the VIP rooms in our Discord, where our community goes over the optimal cash game lineup every single week, where we talk about tournament strategies, where we sweat the games every single Sunday. So the biggest value add to being a viewer, to being a member of our community here in the Smizz Gang, is jumping in the Discord. Make sure that you're there. Do what you can to link your accounts, because it's very worth it. DFS is an extremely isolating game. It's, you know, it's a game where it's just you making things. You don't have anybody to bounce it off of, because like, you might have friends that play daily fantasy. Most people don't. So like, you're just out there alone. You don't have anybody to talk about this stuff with. So like, we've got a community of people that are like-minded, just like you, that you can talk about stuff with. You see people subscribe for longer. How do you do that? There's an option to do it. I wouldn't, don't do that right now. I'm just saying, not a tease, not some, but like, you know, just sub for 1 month at a time on Twitch right now. ETR doesn't have Hendershot or Ferguson projected. They probably do. Depends what lineup builder you're using, because there's like on Fantasy Labs, if you're using Establish the Run and Fantasy Labs, there's a filter player button in the top right-hand part of your screen. You've probably got players filtered out that are projected for less points. So if you remove the filters and just say, show me everyone, they'll all of a sudden show up. Okay, chat's being a mess. You guys are a complete wreck. So why don't we go over to Underdog Fantasy? Why don't we go check out what they got over at Underdog Fantasy? They're running a promotion this week. If you do not have an account at Underdog Fantasy and use promo code ALSMIZZLE, that's ALSMIZZLE, you get up to a $100 deposit bonus on your first deposit to the site. They have this tournament called the Battle Royale. This is a snake draft. It's $5. Okay? So if you go to Underdog Fantasy, you've never made an account, you deposit $100 using ALSMIZZLE at the deposit bonus, you get $200 in your account. You can use 5 of those to enter a battle royale. You can enter as many of these as you want. It's like 150 max, I think. There's something else that they're running, so you can double the bonus when you go there at this point, because Underdog Fantasy running a promo where if you draft one battle royale team for the main slate, it's a 6-person 6-round draft. You draft a quarterback, 1 running back, 2 wide receivers, 1 tight end, and a flex. And then they play it like a GPP, whoever scores the most points. You play 1 draft 1 BR team, and then you get a 100x boosted pick'em coming next week for anybody who enters. They'll take a snapshot, they'll figure it out. If you're a member of EstablishTheRun.com, if you've subscribed over there, you get access to their Underdog Fantasy Battle Royale rankings, where you can upload those to Underdog. And if you're playing NBA, you can go there as well and get the best NBA DFS and sports betting bundle that exists. And you can get a 10% off discount if you do that. So by using promo code SMIZLIFE at checkout or just going to smizzle.tv/ETR. That's all for that. We can go to Pick'em though. Why don't we pick a Pick'em? Ooh, good. It's on the Detroit Lions and Dallas game. What should we do here? This is the fun game of the week, right? What can I... They don't have a good menu. There's just not a lot on the menu for me to pick from. How many, like, okay, higher than 15 fantasy points for Jared Goff, or higher than 1.5 passing touchdowns. Let's do that. Higher than that. All unders? No, I refuse to do unders in this game. This is going to be a fun game. 259 passing yards? Maybe. Let's go over that. Let's go over CeeDee Lamb 70 yards and Dalton Schultz over that. So I got a 4-man pick'em, all hires because I'm an idiot, for $50 to win 500. Confirm, ship it. Ship the Sherbert to Herbert. Let's go, baby. The Fantasy Carnival versus the Fantasy Carnival. Carnies fighting. That's what we like to bet on. Don't do as I do. Unders are sharper. Bet all unders, always. Like, unders are better, but like, I'm an idiot and I just want to play overs. So like, it's more fun. Feel free to fade every pick'em that I ever do. I do them for fun. I'm not trying to like grind out pick'ems. Quick Rainmaker question for Al or chat. If you have a defensive player and they are on IR, do they still accrue points? That is a fantastic question. And the answer is yes, because all defensive cards in Rainmakers score DST points. So the player does not have to be alive for that card to score points in your lineups. Like, I have a Myles Garrett, right? He missed a couple games. This card still scored whatever Cleveland's defense scored. So there it is. You know, you could totally do that. They have IDP and Rainmakers? Not really. I would love for them to switch to a more IDP approach next year. Not full IDP, because that's too tough for people to digest. I would like to see half. Give me whatever points the Browns defense scored divided by 2. So if the Browns defense has 10 points, Myles Garrett scores 5. But if Myles Garrett gets a sack, that's the other half. Myles Garrett should not get points because this is a individual card game. He should not get points for somebody picking off a ball and running it back for a touchdown. He didn't do that. He should get something because it's, you know, if they get DST points, but like, cut him in half, and then next year make the, like, if he has 5 sacks, he should get 1 point for each one of those sacks. So make it like you get the DST points, so there's a floor involved for playing it, but like the other half of the scoring is for that individual player. So like if you play, like somebody said last night on Thursday Night Football, that an optimal play, there's no way that won last night for Arizona. One, you can't play 4 Arizona cards. Last night's showdown, 3 Arizona defense won all the money. There's no way, because like other cards scored more points. Arizona had like 18 points, and like Eno Benjamin had a ton of points, and Luke Hopkins had a ton of points. Dalton had like 30 something points. Like, there's no way that 4 18-point cards won the whole thing. You know, I think Arizona's defense was probably in the winner, but not 4 of them. But you can do 4 of them. Yeah, like it might have won a tournament, but like it didn't win the big tournament. 2 defense, 1 in captain. Maybe because people didn't play, because the fact of Rainmakers is you have to have the cards, and maybe people didn't have Daltons. Maybe people didn't have Hopkins because he's a very limited card right now because they haven't put him out in full distribution because he was missing the first 6 weeks. So there's reasons and rationalizations, but it was not the optimal, right? It's not like the defense had 30 points and the highest individual player had 20, where playing 4 defenses was the optimal. Right, exactly. I love Rainmakers. Rainmakers is too much fun. Can we stop having defenses and backup running backs scoring on the single game slates, right? I was going to do a meme. Did you all see the picture? You had to have seen the picture from last night, right? Of Andy Dalton when the cornerback was diving into the end zone. That amazing freeze frame. Incredible picture. Wholeheartedly agree. There, like that, it was fantastic, right? I was going to do a meme of the picture. I did not do a meme of the picture. Like, here's the picture for those of you who missed it. Dalton just pissed off, and like Wilson diving and flipping into the end zone. My son was like, why did he do that? He's like, he's doing too much. I was like, all right. From my son, who's always doing too much, was like, that dude number 20 is doing too much. I thought that was priceless. Look at this cat right here. There's so much going on in this picture, right? So the meme was going to be defense and special teams being optimal on showdowns. Me. That was going to be the meme. That was where I was going with that. The security guard's the best part of that picture. Is the small tournament field core the same as your cash game core this week? Similar. It should be similar. Small field. So we've talked about the 3 basic lineup builds that you should have. This is actually a very good question for a long form video such as this one. So your cash game core, right? Where you completely play for high floor, combination high floor, high ceiling players. You completely ignore percentage. You don't care about chalk. Chalk is good in cash, right? You want to play the chalky players in cash because even if a 90% player that's in a cash game lineup fails and you have him, if he has 4 fantasy points that day, it does not hurt you in your head-to-heads and 50-50s because 90% of your opponents are on that guy too. So cash does not hurt you to play chalk at all. Tournaments, large field tournaments, the Millionaire Maker, the Slant, things where there's thousands and thousands, tens of thousands, sometimes hundreds of thousands of opponents. You want to get away from playing chalk plays. You want to stay under a combined percentage. You want to get players that are under 10% into those lineups in tandem with staying under 130%, 120%. And you want to find a way where, like, when the chalk fails, if somebody's going to be 25, 35, 50%, where if that play fails, doesn't even fail, but let's just say doesn't ceiling. Ramondre Stevenson last week had 26 fantasy points, but 2 of them came on touchdowns. And if he did not score those touchdowns, he had 14 points. Would that have been failure? No. But would 14 points have won you a tournament? Also, no. So when chalk misses, and it doesn't even have to, like, I'm not talking about has 0.1 fantasy points because he rolled an ankle on the first play, but when chalk fails and it just misses, and if 50% of people are on it, they all fall to the bottom. So your tournament lineups should smartly be finding other ways and other routes to go. Think of it like a GPS, where you're plugging in address into your car to get you from point A to point B. Point B being 250 DraftKings points. That's usually what it takes to win the Millionaire Maker. Sometimes it's 270, sometimes like last week it's 226. So, but like your route should be getting to 250. You can take the most common route where you're gonna have the most traffic, and sometimes that hits. There are definitely Sundays where chalk attacks, but sometimes there's other ways that you can go that aren't as optimal, that are maybe a few more miles, that are maybe a little more time, but they get you to the point, right? You can take the main route, you can take this side route, you can take the route that has no freeways. All of them are designed to try and get you from point A to point B, and point B in tournaments is 250 points. Now for smaller field tournaments, 20-man games, tournaments being all the money up top. A 20-man 50-50 is still a cash game because 10th pays the same as first. You don't have to finish first. I don't have to be faster than the bear. I just got to be faster than those guys. So and the bear will eat them and then I get paid. That's how you have to think about cash games and 50-50s. For leagues games, small field tournaments, 100-man games, 30-man games, the Thunderdome that I enter every week, the $5,000 30 to 40-man tournament. All the money's up top. I have to try and finish in the top 5. Preferably 1 or 2, preferably 1. In order to do that, I've got to have something fail, and I've got to be on something that other people aren't on to differentiate my lineup. But also, it's a smaller field, so I don't have to go as far off of that optimal GPS route to get different. You don't have to do much at all. Just don't play the number 1 or 2 stack, and immediately you're different at 3 or 4 spots in that lineup, while the rest can be a cash game core. Right? Or a slight tweak off a cash game core. It's not difficult to get from, like, we mentioned 2 guys that are definitely going to be in it. Let's talk about the 3 guys that we talked about at the top of the video. Josh Jacobs, CeeDee Lamb, and tight end, let's say it's Dulcich, right? For the purposes of this conversation, let's assume that these are going to be the 3 highest played players at the 3 different spots. How far off the reservation do you think you really have to go in a 100-person or less GPP? You don't have to get much lower than that. Yeah, I see the poll you did, Frostbite. Like, if you want to play Josh Jacobs in smaller field, you can. You really can. There are many ways you can get different. Like at the running back spot, you can either pay up to be contrarian. All of these players, well, probably not McCaffrey, but like Eckler, Henry, Taylor, Chubb, as always, they're all fine. Barkley, fine. Leonard Fournette, great. All have good matchups this week. Many of them home and favored. 5-box running back, 5-box running back. 4 boxes checked off because he's on the road. 4 boxes checked off because he's on the road. One that's not a box is it's a good matchup for running backs. Like, you can pay up to be contrarian. You can pay up to be different. Joe Mixon, same boat. You can same price pivot. You can say, I'm not going to play Jacobs. I am going to play DeAndre Swift. Maybe you don't do that this week. I don't know. I don't care. Or you can just get cheaper. You can go to somebody else that might be less. Walker's going to be somewhat popular this week, so I wouldn't use him if you're trying to get different. But like Ezekiel Elliott, probably not going to be on that many lineups. You can get different there, and you'd be getting different in 2 ways. Because Ezekiel Elliott, you're not going to play CeeDee Lamb. So Elliott is immediate leverage off of CeeDee Lamb chalk, right? That's one way to get different. We talked about CeeDee Lamb over here, right? These are all just examples. I'm not telling you to play these guys. I'm telling you how to get different. So it's not like, oh, Al said, don't play CeeDee Lamb, play this other guy. No, I'm showing you ways to get different. But like CeeDee Lamb is going to be 6,800. Can Michael Pittman have a big day? I don't know. He's only scored 29 points in one game and 30 points in another. And if CeeDee Lamb's going to be like 30%, and Michael Pittman's going to be 3%, I don't know. Maybe that's the way to go. Maybe that's one way to get different at a very similar price point. Maybe CeeDee Lamb's going to be really played, but at the same price point pivot, maybe nobody's going to play Mike Evans. So instead of playing a Dak stack, maybe you play a Tom Brady double. I don't know. Maybe that's a pretty good way to go. I'm just saying that there are many different ways that you can go. The same thing, if Dulcich is going to be extremely popular, there are 2 other same price pivots that you can go with, right? We've talked about them at the beginning of the show, whether you're playing either of the other, whether it's going to be Cade Otton. I mean, look, Mike Evans, Cade Otton, and Tom Brady, immediately you're a little bit different, right? Immediately you're different. Or he's good, and nobody's going to pay up for him this week. So like, just think of ways you can get different smartly. See where everybody's going. Find a different route, either by, in the smaller field stuff, specifically the 100-man games. Find a different route that's maybe other people aren't going, either by paying up at a position where everybody's going to look for value. That's one way to get different, because it'll differentiate your lineup, not just at that spot. If everybody's paying $3K and down, or let's say $3,300 and down at tight end, and you pay $7,400 at tight end, the rest of your lineup's going to look different than everybody else's. If everybody's going to pay up at quarterback, find a way to pay down at quarterback. It's the easiest way to differentiate around a really solid core elsewhere, where you play the right plays. But it'll differentiate half of your lineup by doing any one of those things. Your whole lineup doesn't need to be, it's not a game where we add up the total percentage and whoever has the lowest wins, right? That's not the game. The game isn't, I have, at the end of the day, I have, my whole lineup is 5% owned on Sunday, I won. They still have to score points. Kelsey is a pay up. Do you like Andrews better? I mean, Andrews is the better play. Kelsey also fine, but Andrews is clearly the better tight end play this week. How about using bring back from other top stacks? I'm in, but I don't understand what you mean specifically in terms of the discussion, but yes. For cash, if you knew a player would be 60%, another player would be 25, would I always take the higher percent of player because of the block? I would, yes. Kelsey, 6 touchdowns. That's what I'm saying. Like, Mark Andrews is the better play because of matchup, because of salary, because of expected points per dollar. That doesn't mean that he will 100% outscore Travis Kelsey, but he is the better play at the decision point. Now, from a tournament perspective, Travis Kelsey does have the possibility of scoring 25 plus DraftKings points, and if less people are going to be on him, he is a fine play. From a tournament perspective, you want players that other people are not playing that have access to a major ceiling, and especially at tight end, where it's a differentiating position versus the field. As most tight ends, like, what would be a good day? Think of all those like no-name bargain basement value tight ends, those generic brand Kirkland brand tight ends. Dulcich, Kirkland brand. Cade Otton, Kirkland brand. Will Disley, Kirkland brand tight ends. Guys like that. If you get 10 points, you're high-fiving everybody around you. Every single one. They might have a 1.5% chance max of scoring 25 plus. Mark Andrews scores 25 plus. You're like, got it. Yup. He's averaging 20. So just by paying up at that position, you have 15-point advantage over the rest of the, like, over everybody else at that position. There's probably a tight end somewhere named Kirkland. You know, where those Kirkland brand tight ends win is when they have 5 catches, 57 yards, and a touchdown, and then they have 16 points. That's how one of those guys wins. However, the fact that there are like 3 and possibly 4 of them on this slate, now it's tough. Now it's like, well, how do you get access to all of them? You know, and everybody starts chasing it like it's a ball on a roulette wheel or a game of whack-a-mole. So tight end having that much extreme value makes it difficult. Much like the fact that when you think about the running back position, think about all the guys that I said were good plays this week at running back. Just go down the list of all the players that are like in play at running back this particular week. I'm going to do one thing. I'm going to go over here. I'm going to sort by this column. I'm going to count guys that are dark green. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16, 17 players being dark green plays this week at running back. Running backs all over the place on DraftKings this week. Dark green equals good. And they're at everywhere from 5,400 to 8,300. So running back's a position where the ownership projections and actual Sunday percentages are going to be extremely spread out. There's not going to be much consolidation. The only one's going to have consolidation is Josh Jacobs. Everybody's going to be on Josh Jacobs. Then it's going to be a combination of 1 or 2 other running backs who are all good plays. Some of them are going to go off and some of them are not. And it's going to be who takes a stand on the right one. And I don't know which one is exactly the right one. Lamar to Andrews single stack. I'm probably not going to single stack him. What are my thoughts on onslaught builds? When they hit huge. Most of the time they don't hit. But if you're building 150 lineups, sure, go for it. Build a few. If you think a game is going to have 80 real life points and you have 6 players from that game as opposed to the 4 that we normally go with in a double stack and bring back, you're going to capture all the upside. That's how Hoop won the Millionaire Maker early this year. It was, what was it, Seattle, Detroit, and scored like 174 points on 48 touchdowns during the game, and he had like all of them because he had everybody from that game. When a game goes that nuts and the scoring and the touchdowns and the volumes go to the predictable players, that week it was Reynolds and Hawkinson, and I think he had Goff, and then Lockett, or he had Gino, whichever quarterback he had went nuts. What's an onslaught build? Like quarterback, 3 players from team A, 3 other players from team B. Like pick a game that's going to shoot out and just play everybody. But more often than not, that does not win. Yeah, basically triple stack, double bring back, or double stack, triple bring back. You're just stacking one game. But that's, you know, it's like you're bringing in way more variance. If y'all don't like double stacking, you're bringing in all the variance with an onslaught. Do I believe Melvin Gordon is actually starting this week? I've stopped trying to figure out what Hackett is doing. I have no idea what that man is doing. Whatever it is, it ain't right. If you go to a restaurant with Hackett and he orders first, are you going to order the same food he ordered? Couldn't be me. Yeah, I'm going to have the burger and fries. Let me get the fish. I'm not ordering anything close to what he orders. I wouldn't even order a chicken sandwich if he ordered a burger. Too close. Not going to be optimal. You got to stay as far away from that man's decisions as you possibly can. Hackett's the one who goes to a steakhouse and orders fish. Yeah, I'll have the sea bass. What are you wearing a steakhouse, dude? Whatever he does is wrong. And Rodgers knew. He 100% knew. Denver was like, oh, we're going to sign the offensive coordinator from Green Bay to be our head coach because we want to get Aaron Rodgers to come to Denver because that's like he's out there and we're going to make the trade. We're going to get him. And it's like, hey, we signed Hackett. He's the Green Bay offensive coordinator. He's coming over. He's going to be our head coach. Rodgers like, I'm going to stay here in Green Bay and ride this out. I ain't got no Devontae Adams left though, Aaron. I'll be fine. I'm good. I'm fine right here. Get me as far away from that man as possible. Can I sign someone? Can we play some games in Maine? Can I get further away from Hackett? Sheesh. God damn it. Anyway, that's going to do it for this week. I appreciate you guys being here. Thank you for watching the show. Drop a like on the video, subscribe to the channel. Look out for another video right there.
He's a legend.